If you have ever walked through a vegetable garden and felt like you were losing a war against bugs, you are not alone. Every summer, millions of American gardeners reach for chemical sprays, spend a fortune on pesticides, and still watch their tomatoes get eaten alive. But there is a community right here in America that has been growing clean, abundant food without a single drop of chemical pesticide for over 300 years. The Amish. And today I'm going to share 7 of their best-kept pest control secrets that actually work. After 3 decades of growing my own food, I can tell you that number 4 completely changed how I think about bugs in the garden. And stick around to the end because I have got a bonus trick that most people have never even heard of. Now, before we dig into the list, it helps to understand how the Amish see their gardens. For them, a garden is not a battle against nature. It is a partnership with it. They believe that a healthy garden, one with rich soil and good diversity, can mostly take care of itself. They do not try to eliminate every single pest. They aim for balance. And that one idea changes everything about how you approach your backyard. So let us start with the most powerful tool in the Amish pest control toolbox, and that is companion planting. If you have ever grown tomatoes next to basil, you have already touched on this idea, but the Amish take it much further. They interplant their gardens deliberately so that certain crops protect each other. For example, they grow marigolds throughout the vegetable beds, not just along the border, because the scent confuses and repels aphids, whiteflies, and even some beetles. They plant dill and fennel near squash to attract the tiny beneficial wasps that prey on squash bugs. The key is diversity. When you grow a monoculture, pests find their target fast. But when your garden is a patchwork of different plants, different scents, and different heights, pests get confused. In zones 5 through 8, try interplanting basil with your tomatoes, nasturtiums near your cucumbers, and marigolds just about everywhere. You will notice fewer pests within the first season. The second secret is one that sounds almost too simple, but the Amish swear by it: hand picking. Every single morning, Amish gardeners walk their rows and physically remove pests by hand. They check the undersides of leaves for egg clusters. They drop potato beetles into a jar of soapy water. They squish hornworm caterpillars before they can strip a tomato plant bare. Now, I know that sounds tedious, and honestly it is. But here is why it works so well. When you catch a pest problem early, before it becomes an infestation, you can control it without spraying anything at all. The Amish call this being a good steward of the garden. Walk your rows every morning for just 10 to 15 minutes and look for the telltale signs. Chewed leaves, tiny eggs on the undersides, or frass, which is just a polite word for caterpillar droppings. When you see it, act immediately. That daily habit alone will cut your pest damage dramatically. Number 3 on the list is a recipe that has been passed down through Amish families for generations, and that is homemade garlic and hot pepper spray. You take about 5 or 6 cloves of garlic, a couple of hot peppers like cayenne or habanero, and blend them up with about a quart of water. Let it steep overnight, strain it through cheesecloth, then add just a tiny squirt of natural dish soap so it sticks to the leaves. Spray it directly on your plants in the early morning or late evening, never in full sun because it can burn the foliage. This works as a strong deterrent for aphids, spider mites, Japanese beetles, and even some small mammals like rabbits. Reapply after rain. I have been using a version of this in my own garden for over 20 years, and it remains one of my go-to solutions when I spot trouble early. Now, real quick before we keep going, if you are enjoying these old-fashioned gardening secrets, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel, and it makes sure you do not miss the next video. All right, let us get back to the list. Number 4 is the one I mentioned at the top that completely changed how I think about pest control, and that is building habitat for beneficial insects. Most gardeners think of all bugs as the enemy, but the Amish know better. They understand that ladybugs, lacewings, ground beetles, and parasitic wasps are some of the best pest killers on the planet, and they work for free. The trick is giving them a reason to stay. Amish gardeners plant strips of yarrow, sweet alyssum, and clover between their vegetable rows specifically to attract these helpers. They also leave small patches of the garden a little wild, with some tall grasses or a few logs on the ground, so beneficial insects have somewhere to shelter and lay their eggs. In zones 4 through 9, try planting a border of sweet alyssum around your raised beds this spring. Within a few weeks, you will start seeing tiny hoverflies and parasitic wasps moving in, and those are the creatures that eat aphids by the hundreds. Once I started doing this in my own garden, I noticed something remarkable. I was spraying less and harvesting more because the garden was handling pest control on its own. The fifth Amish secret is one of the oldest farming practices in history, and that is crop rotation. The idea is simple, but the results are powerful. Every season, you move your plant families to a different spot in the garden. So where you grew tomatoes this year, you plant beans next year. Where you had squash, you put in root vegetables. The reason this works so well for pest control is that many insects overwinter in the soil right beneath the plants they feed on. Cucumber beetles lay their eggs at the base of cucurbit plants. Colorado potato beetle larvae drop into the dirt right under your potatoes. When you move those crops to a new location the following season, the pests emerge in spring and their food source is gone. The Amish typically rotate on a 3 to 4 year cycle, and they never plant the same family in the same bed 2 years in a row. Even in a small backyard garden, you can follow this principle. Sketch a simple map of your beds each year and keep track. It takes almost no extra effort, and it breaks the pest cycle naturally. Number 6 is diatomaceous earth, and this one is a real workhorse in Amish gardens. Diatomaceous earth, or DE as most gardeners call it, is a fine powder made from the fossilized remains of tiny aquatic organisms. To us it feels like soft flour, but to insects it is like crawling across broken glass. The microscopic edges cut through the waxy coating on their exoskeletons, causing them to dehydrate and die. The Amish dust it around the base of plants and lightly on the leaves to control slugs, flea beetles, earwigs, and ants. The important thing is to use food-grade diatomaceous earth, not the kind sold for pool filters. Apply it on a dry morning after the dew has evaporated, because it loses effectiveness when wet. You will need to reapply after rain, but a single bag lasts most gardeners an entire season. In my experience, it works best as a barrier rather than a full coverage spray. A ring of it around your cabbages and lettuces will stop slugs in their tracks. Now, our 7th and final secret is one where I want to be upfront with you. Wood ash and garden lime borders are a time-honored Amish practice for deterring slugs, snails, and certain soft-bodied crawling insects, but there is a bit of debate about just how effective they are compared to some of the other methods on this list. That said, plenty of Amish gardeners swear by it, and I have had decent results myself. The idea is to sprinkle a thin line of wood ash or powdered garden lime around the perimeter of your beds or directly around vulnerable plants like hostas, lettuce, and strawberries. The alkaline, gritty texture irritates the bodies of slugs and snails, and they tend to turn around rather than cross it. The Amish save wood ash from their stoves all winter specifically for this purpose. Now, the catch is that rain washes it away quickly, so you do need to reapply regularly. And you do not want to overdo it because too much ash can raise your soil pH over time. Use it as one tool among many, not your only line of defense. Some gardeners claim it also discourages ants and flea beetles along garden borders, but the evidence for that is more anecdotal. Still, when it comes to slug control, it has earned its place in the Amish toolkit. Now, here is that bonus trick I promised you. One of the simplest and most effective sprays the Amish use is plain old soap and water. Not detergent, not antibacterial soap, just a teaspoon or so of pure Castile soap mixed into a quart of water. Spray it directly on soft-bodied pests like aphids, mealybugs, and whiteflies, and it suffocates them on contact by breaking down the protective coating on their bodies. I learned this one from an old Amish farmer at a produce auction in Lancaster County years ago, and I still use it every single summer. The key is to spray in the evening so it does not dry too fast in the sun, and always test it on a small section of the plant first because some tender varieties can be sensitive. And that wraps up our 7 Amish pest control secrets plus a bonus. I hope you picked up at least one or two ideas you can take straight into your garden this season. If you enjoyed this, leave a comment and tell me which secret you are going to try first. And if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Thanks for spending a little time with me today, friends. Now get out there and grow something good.